Arizona. And he played in a lot of rockabilly bands. Music of that nature. And now he lives in Nashville, as do all of these guys. There you go. Come on. Let's bring ragtime back.
What is that, Van Halen?
I'm bringing ragtime back. Yeah, it's good.
Is that Van Halen?
Yeah, Van Owen. All right. What about so that's Scotty Murray, and when he's not playing guitar in this band, he does spend a lot of time playing guitar in rooms around town, putting sound on other people's records. Yep. Yes. So yeah, that's what he does. He knows his way around. He grew up in the church, so he's kind of got a sense of both of those worlds, which is kind of cool. And what I'd like, if it's cool for you, is if you have questions, if questions occur to you as we're talking, and we are unclear, can't imagine that that's going to happen, but it may. Then I'd love for you just to go, and we'll just take the question right there and then. All right. So that's Scotty Murray. What a rustic-looking stool you're sitting on. That's Halloween. It's not. This is okay. So I'm so excited about this. You're getting a lot of time. It better be good, that bass solo. All right. So then, on the drums, this is his home church. When he's not on the road with us, this is where he worships. Yeah. Here we go. So I'm just going to let you do it. This is Mr. Benjamin Showalter. Take it away, Ben. Yes. Oh, yeah. I messed up already. No one would have known. Keep going. Yeah. That's it. That's all you've got.
Done.
I feel like that should be our role, like our task in the next year, just as a group of people to bring drum solos back. I'd just like to say, take it away. Anyway. It's just humorous. Back in the day, that was deadly serious. Yeah. All right. So Ben's been playing with me for about 4 years, maybe? Almost 5 years. So we're practically family, as with Scotty and Danny. And he's played in a bunch of bands, Chasing Furies and Lunar Halo, a lot of indie bands where people had tattoos and eye makeup. And then he eased into more CCM with Ginny Owens, yeah. And he's played with a bunch of worship leaders. So if you want the scoop on Tim Hughes or Michael Ganga, who else? Yeah.
Matt Maher.
Ben Cantlon, Vicky Beeching, Matt Maher, yeah. For $5 you can know stuff, yeah. It's real cheap. So this is Ben Showalter on the drums. And now, without much further ado, Daniel Ornelas. Come on, Marcus. So beautiful.
No, enough of that.
He can't do it.
Hold on. Hi there, I'm Beaver Feldman. Welcome to Funk Bass.
You've got a video series, don't you? Yeah.
No.
Isn't it The Art of Groove?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like you just stepped into a whole puddle of tone. Welcome to my bass class.
Yeah. You've just earned yourself a day pass to the Six Flags of Tone. All right. And we're just laughing, but this is actually our job. Yeah. Well, you really want me to do my own little spiel?
Yeah, you better do something.
No one lasted very long. Scotty was probably the longest. I guess this... Chet Atkins. You've got to be pretty brave to play country music in this town. Am I on? Oh, so beautiful. And that's all I got.
Yeah, I can't believe that. Your capo jumped ship.
Capos are not used to that. Capos want you to strum in the position of G at all times. That capo left me. Sorry, buddy, I'm getting you back.
Oh, gosh.
No picking of the strings of the capo. All right. Man, I hope it's okay that we're laughing. I'll tell you a little bit of my story, and then we'll kind of dive into the nitty-gritty. But the first time I played in church, it was a Church of England church in South Africa. You figure that one out. I still don't understand it, but that was where the gospel was being preached and was where my family went. And so I asked if I could be on the worship team because I played electric guitar. And they said, okay, sure, they said. Come on in. So I joined them on Friday nights for rehearsal. But on Sundays, I think also on Friday nights, I was not allowed to turn the amp on. So for 6 months, I played electric guitar with the amp off. Good times. I think what was happening was they were waiting for me to clip the strings on the head of my very cheap electric guitar, which had a whammy bar system that never stayed in tune, incidentally, and that never happened. So that was my introduction to worship music, and then kind of I fell away from church, not because of the amp thing. I didn't really care. It was a Yamaha amp. Probably should have stayed off. They were just doing it for tone reasons. And then maybe 2 years later, God got a hold of me really, like, strongly. I walked into a lecture hall at our university, and there were 300 to 400 kids just giving their hearts to God in worship. Like, no embarrassment. This was before worship was cool. This is back when worship was like Burt Bacharach. That was the chosen style of music. And I went in there and I just saw people worshiping God, and it sensed the presence of God, the glory of God in the room. And I was like, wow, I would like very much to somehow be a part of this. I don't know how, but I'll do anything. Like, I'll run cables or put out chairs, whatever I need to do to be near this, because this is the most special thing I've ever seen. And God kind of grabbed my heart and my neck, I think, and just pulled me into church. And that's how it started for me. And I've been writing songs, but I wanted to write songs that served the church. So I wrote about 20 really bad songs that I hoped would serve the church. They didn't serve the church well, which is still roughly my batting average. I write about at least 20 bad songs a year, I would say. And while that was happening, I got to sit in and play with these guys, and they were not like, it wasn't a rock band. It was like a woodwind section. That was really our church band. There was a range of clarinetists, and I think there was a bassoonist. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, there was nothing like, I think that verse in Isaiah, there was nothing in their appearance to commend them. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I would very much like to join that band of bassoonists in worship on Sunday. It had nothing to do with that at all. It was what was happening spiritually. There was something that was happening in the air, something that was changing. And so eventually I began to work on my Ron Canoli repertoire and Paul Jackson Jr. licks. And then a guy called Paul Balash walked into our church one Sunday on a YWAM trip and led worship with an acoustic guitar. And I was like, how about that? I did not even know that was possible. I thought for sure you needed a set of bongos and a horn section. Like, genuinely, I was amazed. We began to get comfortable with the idea of leading worship with music that we listened to around the house. Like, it wasn't a separate musical genre worship. It may well be that for you right now, and if that's the case, I hope you change what's happening right now as you grow older and as you develop as worship leaders and musicians. Okay. So what we're going to do is explain how we do it, and then once you've figured that stuff out, then you go do it better. It should be easy. All right. Boys, you want to play a bit of Guess That Tune before we hit the...
Quickly.
Quickly, let's do it. Okay, I've done some talking. You have to do some listening and then just kind of get involved. Daniel's going to play some songs here, and you have to guess the tune. Let's just divide the room down the middle here, and you're in teams. You guys are winning right now because you're short of numbers, so you've got one. Nothing for you at all. Oh, it was a dead heat, though. Were you going to say Billie Jean? We're in a church. I'm just going to have to assume that you weren't lying. All right. Okay. But don't, sinners come to church. That's why we come. All right. It's still a dead heat. Wait. Walking on the Moon?
That's Mr. Updaggy.
Yes. So actually, what's the score now? Because we've had 3 and you guys were ahead. Now you're 2 ahead. So it's 5-3. 5-3 or 4-2? 4-2. All right. Onwards and upwards. Incorrect. Yeah. Oh, well, we still have 4-2. You got any other tricks in that bag? Yes, 50 ways. Very, very good. So, 4-3. You guys are catching. Got anything else? What did you say? That's not a country tune. Bing, bong, bing, bong. Actually, all I heard was... But I'm again going to assume that we're being honest here. So it's now 4 even. Okay, stay alert. This country needs alerts. All right.
There you go.
You got anything else? No? You got something?
I'll play it.
Sure.
It's a tune when I bought it.
Tuning can be embarrassing. Yeah, 5-4. That was very quick. Not even a thought from you guys. Yeah, I didn't even think I saw you thinking about that. All right.
Shit.
Yeah! Oh my gosh, they're killing you guys. 6-4. Come on, people. Stay in the 80s. Stay in the 80s. All right, rebel, man. You got anything else?
No, it's not.
Stay in the 80s. That's pretty much what's going to happen,
All
I
right.
think. Yeah.
All right, here's one.
We should have known when it all started with drum solos. Yeah. Who got it first? Oh, wait. Okay, so then actually you guys, it's 5-6. This to draw level. Here we go. Yeah, but they said Beatles first. Yeah, very good. So 7-5. Gosh.
All right, trick one. It's a trick one.
I don't know, but this is... Yes, correct. Man, it's a whipping. I'm sorry, people. We can't count it. Well, it was a trick question. Okay, 7-5, you're right. It's no trickery in the church. Just keep it even. All right.
You do one.
Oh, man. I haven't even thought about this song. Forget about playing it. Very good. Very good. 6-7. All right. Staying in the 80s. Huh? Yes. Sting. Everyone's embarrassed to know that, to admit they know a Sting song. Sting. Yeah, so actually now we're on the tiebreaker at 7 each. Just to win, we're going to do... They got you right at the end. You guys were ahead for the whole thing. Ivor the tiger, my child's pet. All right, here we go. We're just going to dive right in. Bass guitar. My cousin Prunella has just been given one for Christmas. Her parents bought it from Walmart. She wants to play in the worship band. Any words of advice before she launches in on this adventure of bass?
Wow. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Hey, Prunella.
Prunella.
I'd say to Prunella, you can come and join the worship team. Just learn where the kind of the basic notes are. And you can play in the band for the first 2 months of your learning. And then you have to sit down in church again and practice until 15 years' time you can come play in the band again. Wow. What I'm getting at there is that most bass players, when they're really starting out, all they're shooting for is the root notes, trying to just get to the chords that are changing. So that's be like, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, what's that? Hallelujah. Oh my gosh, hold on. Your love makes me sing. And so they're just hitting for those notes. But then after about 2 months, they learn hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. And they start playing stuff that shouldn't be in the song. So sometimes I'm like, hey, that girl in the band, she's awesome. How long has she been playing? 2 months. I'm like, wow. Come back a year later and she's like, and it's all context playing. So like that, you learn a whole bunch of licks and throw them all into every song. And so that's when things get really messy as a player. So my advice to Prunella would be, practice in the bedroom and play the songs on Sunday.
All right, since we're talking about practicing at home, let's talk about sound. What would you have to say? Like, what's going on here with your bass amp, and how do you make your bass sound good if you're just starting out?
What you looking at my bass amp, fool?
Yeah, that's what you're.
Yeah, no. The thing about bass is it's an omnidirectional instrument, and there's a lot of noise that comes out of an amp. So in most small settings, in most churches, everyone's always like, the bass is too loud, wow. And the bass player's like, but I can't hear myself. And usually that's just a combination of a few things, not knowing how to set up tone, and then also not knowing really how to sound check properly. So what I would say in learning bass players is, for starters, if you've got a decent bass guitar, you need to set the EQ as flat as you can. Who knows what EQ is? Everybody know what EQ is? It's like a band of EQ. And if you go to most churches, when I get there's a bass amp there, and it's got this like smiley face EQ, which means all the lows have been pushed up and all the highs have been pushed up a lot. And that sounds fine if the bass is playing by itself and you're just practicing. It's like that's the most pleasing tone if you're listening just to the bass by itself. But as soon as the band starts playing, you've got no mid-range. You're not going to hear any of the notes. All you're going to hear is and clickety click click clickety, like a lobster playing bass. And people are like, what's that clicking sound? And why is it so boomy? And what's so loud? And it's because they've scooped out all the mid-range where actually the bass notes live. Because it's bass doesn't mean it's just bass. It's a full range instrument, so you need to hear all the range through the sound. So avoid trying to scoop it out to make it pleasant by itself. It might sound kind of clanky by itself if you have mid-range in there, but that's where your notes live, so don't chop those out, otherwise you can't get them back, especially if you're going through the amp and then giving that to the front of house guy. The other thing is, the less that I have on stage, the more opportunity the front of house guy has to put me in the speakers up there. And you'd rather hear me through those than just through this little guy here. So if you're a bass player, try and keep the bass as soft as you can on stage, just to be able to hear yourself, and then let them do their job out there to get you in the house.
So the name of the instrument is actually misleading. It should really be called Dave or something. Because you find out you're playing the bass, and you're like, well, I must turn out the bass.
That's right.
That's incorrect.
That is incorrect, in fact.
Why would it sound better coming through those things and your amp, rather than just your amp?
Well, because that little amp's going to shoot sound straight at these people here. And those people there won't hear it, and those people there won't hear it. And also he'll be irritated because I'll be trying to get my bass into this room through just that speaker, that set of speakers. So it won't be clear. It'll just sound like crazy loud right in front of these guys and really soft for everybody else, or boomy.
All right.
It'll rattle around the room.
Here's another question. What do you think about then if you're just playing, like you're playing simple because that suits the song? Aren't you just thinking, man, I've learned like 400 Marcus Miller licks. Like, I'm kind of bored. I want to do them. Like what?
Well, then I would say start a Marcus Miller band.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, often people that only have one opportunity to play on Sundays, this applies to everybody really that plays in church, is, you know, you get this technique and you learn all this stuff and you're like, man, I want to use this. I want to show people what I can do. I've been practicing this stuff. And then you end up trying to do that all on Sunday morning. And what we really here to do is to serve the people that are out there and get them into, as quickly as we can, into the presence of God. And so the focus has got to be on, what are you going to do?
Just that.
The focus has got to be kind of on just creating a sound that just supports the worship leader. And most of the time that's going to be pretty simple. But I find, like, even though we play on the road, every week we usually play the same 15 or 20 songs. Just the joy of listening to the song sound right and sound open. For me to play a big old root note and then go, it just sounds great to me. And that's all it needs. And I'm enjoying the music. I'm not just thinking about what I'm doing. So I'm listening to Ben, I'm listening to Scotty and going, wow, that's cool what Scotty just did. And hey, that's awesome. But if you're in your own space worried about what you're going to play, you're not listening to anybody else. There's a whole bunch of ramifications. And that goes from you playing way too much and you playing out of time or not playing with the drummer. And so the secret is just to play what the song wants and enjoy the song for what it is, and you'll have a good time still playing in worship.
How do you know what the song wants?
You say, Mr. Song, please may I serve you, my
How can I
mouth?
serve you well? Yeah.
I think, one of the biggest problems that people talk to us about is that, how do I get my drummer to play the right things in church? And how do I do this? And how do I do that? And a lot of them are worship leaders saying, my bass player is like a metalhead and all he wants to do is play. And like, how do I change that? And I'm like, well, does he listen to worship music? Oh, no. He's into a different style of music. Well, then it's your job, if you're wanting him to play in this setting, to give him some reference material at least and say, these are the songs we're going to play. These are the versions of the songs. If it's like Everlasting God, if you want to play the Lincoln Brewster version and you want your guitarist to go little, then give him that version. If you want to play the Brenton version, then give him that version. So that they have a context and they go, oh, I see what this guy's doing. And then tones and parts and everything will come together if they've listened to the songs and if they really want to serve, which is kind of like a pastoral thing. If you're wanting your band to serve the team, then you have to instill that in them. And usually that means you have to serve them as a leader in the week and when you're at band practice.
And if church is going good and it's healthy, you're going to be getting, hopefully, people from very different parts of the world coming together, different walks of life, different musical tastes coming together on the same team. That's like a good thing, that your bass player likes country and your guitarist likes metal. Like that means something's working in your church. So don't be sad about that. But then, as Daniel said, there's a pastoral kind of element to this where you say, okay, this is what I like, but this is actually what's going to help our community meet with the Lord on Sunday. You touched a little bit on the relationship between the bass and the drummer. Do you guys want to talk us and play us through some of those things?
Okay,
how much attention are you paying to each other, and what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a general rule. It's not a hard and fast rule that you want the bass drum, the bass guitar to line up with what the kick drum's doing. That kind of clears everything up. It makes it neat sounding. Or you need to be listening to what the groove is that the drummer's playing and play along to that. Not necessarily only the kick drum, but let's say for argument's sake, there's a song like Your Love Makes Me Sing Hallelujah, Your Love Makes Me Sing by Brenton. And I'm going to listen to Ben, and he's playing this groove. Cool. So if I follow him, So I'm following his kick pattern with my bass note and what my bass line, and what it's really doing is I'm adding melody to his kick drum, and he's lending punch to my bass parts. So it's sounding really tight and awesome. And if you're having trouble and things are sounding really crazy on stage, and as a worship leader, you might want to say, "Hey, what's happening with the bass and the drums, guys? Are you guys locking in together?" And you might find that the bass player is playing something completely on his own. That also forces the drummer and the bass player to pick a specific part for that song, so they don't just do their own thing. I mean, Ben, play like a couple of bars with just changing up the kick as much as you want. See, I can't follow that at all, so I'll just go, oh well, and I'll just do my own thing and say, smile out there and just keep rocking.
Let's hear that.
And it's messy as all get out. Okay.
Okay.
Pleasing.
What's funny is that we're actually playing what we normally play. So we're bringing the best that we can bring, but that ain't helping.
No.
Yeah.
It's misery.
So it's amazing. It's like the tambourine. Just one of them can ruin the whole experience for everybody. Yeah. Or like the trumpeter that came to one of our worship events and sat in the balcony and played trumpet harmonies for the whole night.
Ministry right there.
It was pretty special, man. I couldn't just shut him down. I wasn't going to go, "Hey, trumpet guy." No. So he just played with us. Oh, gosh.
We did a few of these.
Yeah.
But that didn't work.
No. Yeah.
He would not be stopped.
All right, sorry, I've interrupted you. So that's the following each other's kick pattern. You want to talk a little bit, since you're right here, about like non-swung or non-groove orientated music?
You mean just straight up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I listen to, if you play the Coldplay Clocks kind of groove, that's got it. I'm not going to follow his kick drum. I'll be going, do-do, do-do, do-do. I won't play that, but I'm listening to his whole groove overall, and it's just pretty straight. I'm going to be playing... But now what I'm going to do is, because I can hear his groove, I'm actually going to emphasize those are straight eighth notes. They fall on every eighth note of the bar. So there's 8 notes per bar. And I'm playing. But what I'm going to do is, because of his groove, I'm going to go. So I'm actually just emphasizing with volume to kind of go along with his groove, and it creates more of a feeling of groove than it would if I was just playing straight da 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 da. So let's play again. 1, 2, 3. Yes.
Makes sense? Yes, pretty much. Any questions? Anything you want to ask Daniel? Like, you could go home with ammunition now and go, "Hey, you, bass player, listen to this. Ornelas told me this. You're wrong." No? Just giving you the opportunity. Yes, there you go.
You were talking about EQ earlier.
Yep.
You ever use a sonic maximizer live?
No, I don't. I mean, even in the studio, I really... some of that stuff, you mean to brighten up the top end and all that? Yeah, this is an interesting conversation, because the starting point for me is the style of music that we play. I try and shoot for the guys that musically are on the same kind of style that are like if you look at the Police or the bands like U2, kind of, that's the kind of music that we make. It's like 90s. No, it's like 90s.
Bringing worship into the 90s.
Yeah. Like if you listen to Tomlin and all those guys, it's pretty straightforward, and it's kind of that P bass is the kind of bass of choice. And if you look at Hillsong United and all these bands that kind of are doing this actual songs that we play in church, most of the guys are playing that kind of, it's not a very bright, active sounding tone, Not to say that that's wrong, because this is art, not science, right? So all these different tones that you can get, like if you walk into a store in Guitar Center and say, I need to buy a bass guitar, the guy in there might be into like 11-string tapping, crazy, like amazingly bright sounding, which is not wrong, it's just a different thing completely. Very active bass. And so they'll do a lot of this kind of stuff, and then he'll sell you that bass guitar because he likes that, and you'll go back to church with a guitar that you could do a cooking show on the neck. And whatever.
Sorry, good delivery though. Yeah.
And so that doesn't really help, because no matter what you do to try and get that bass to sound like this bass, it's not going to help. You can't get that kind of very bright, active sound to get to be like this. But if you can still play a bass like that if you know what you're doing on that bass, and still kind of be part of the band if you want to. But my deal would be rather just go buy a cheap Squier precision bass, and at least you'll be that much closer to trying to get the right tone and play in that kind of band. If that's the style. I mean, if your worship team might be way different from what we play here. But for the style of music that we make as a 4-piece band, if you look at all the big, amazing 4-piece bands or 3-piece bands out there, they usually have a bass that's kind of like a rumbly, very kind of big, round tone, kind of this type of bass. You won't see someone playing like a Schecter bass, a very bright, tonal kind of sounds in a 3-piece band. It's just going to sound really kind of too bright, and it's not going to support the guitarist, who's the only other guy really. If you've got a keyboard player holding down all that stuff, then you can have one of those sounds. So to answer your question, Sonic Maximizer, I don't really go for that tone. It's a different tone. I think I appreciate it, but it's not what I do.
Comprehensive and clear answer, I thought. Huh? Pretty good. Any other questions? No? Anyone play the bagpipes in this room? No, Ty's is shaking his head. I think before we move on to Ben Showalter, I'm just going to share a few thoughts on bagpipes. My father used to play the bagpipes. It takes a lot of practice to make the bagpipes sound okay. What's the difference between bagpipes and a trampoline? Take your shoes off when you jump on a trampoline. What's the difference between bagpipes and an onion? Nobody cries when you chop up the bagpipes. Yeah. What's the definition of a gentleman? Someone who knows how to play the bagpipes, but doesn't do that. How do you get two bagpipers to play in tune? You shoot one of them, yeah. What's the difference between bagpipes and roadkill? Very often there's skid marks just before the roadkill, yeah. One time I went shopping, and while I was shopping, I suddenly remembered, oh my gosh, I left bagpipes in the back of my car with the window open. So I raced back to the car, but it was too late. Someone had already thrown another set of bagpipes in there. What you gonna do? All right, bagpipes. Anyone play the bagpipes? No, good, all right. Benjamin.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's just tell us what you think. Tell us what you think is important to know in this thing that we're doing here, leading worship.
It's a lot of things to know.
Too many things to know.
Many things to know.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a drummer, we are tasked with the responsibility of keeping time. Now, some drummers have better time than others. So, first thing I say is get a metronome. If you can get one for the church, that's great. If you've got an iPhone or an Android, there's apps out there that are $1 or $2. I've got one called Tempo Advance, $2. It's the best metronome that I've had so far, just in the various things you can do with it. What I use a metronome for when we play live is obviously for click. We all hit a click and we play to it. When I play here at church, sometimes I have to count songs off, and that's really what I'm using it for, just a reference for song tempos. So I get a set list together, write the tempos out to the side, and off you go. Another thing.
Which is the tempo thing's important.
It could be important.
It could be important. Not just staying to tempo, but playing the tempo that you've thought about before. Like if I'm super sleepy, like today, we sound checked Everlasting God. It felt like a techno version to me, because we sound checked at like 5:30 LA time. Like that song wasn't written to be sung at 5:30 in the morning. So if I'd had my way, I would have started it like, and that would have felt right to me back then, because everything else felt crazy. So the tempo kind of, if once you figured out what works for your community, trust yourself. Go with it again. Yeah.
Yeah, don't always trust your inner metronome, because if you're tired, it can be slow. If you're 10 cups of coffee in the day, it can be way too fast. The other thing, obviously we get asked a lot is, how do I keep my drummer from playing so loud that people's ears bleed? And that comes down to time and practice and, someone really putting in a lot of time to develop control over their sounds. Obviously you can use a shield, some room in the back where no one can see them in the closet. Feed video to them,
It's a very rustic shield.
I say if you don't have a shield, that's great. If they can't control their sound with a pair of sticks, give them some hot rods, multi-dowel sticks, or some brushes, or something that might not be as loud as sticks, but you can still play a groove with. I spent a good year playing with a couple of guys that played on acoustic guitars, and the only thing they used the PA for was the vocals. So I had to play with 2 guitar players and not drown them out. So I've started out with brushes. When I developed control with the brushes, I moved up to some hot rods. Developed dynamic control and ability with those, and then I eventually moved up to some very small sticks, and I was able to play with these guys in a small pizza place around town. Play with sticks, but not drown out the acoustic guitar. So it really took a lot of time, but it can be done.
Nice to know.
So volume, time.
Show us, Ben.
No.
Ben, show Walter us. Come on. Yep, just dancing. That's all you get. Still pretty good. It's possible. Hey, sorry guys at home.
The thing that happens is, I remember in band class in high school, whenever the band would get quiet, they would start to slow down because they couldn't. For some reason, it just wasn't natural to keep going at that tempo when they got quiet. Or if they got loud, they'd start to speed up. It's just a matter of spending the time playing quiet, or spending the time, building or dropping dynamics.
Very good. Very good. We're going to listen to a couple of things, but I wanted to ask a question first. How many of you are on Avioms or in-ear systems? And then the rest of you are on floor monitors, is that right? Yes. Hearback systems.
What's that?
You can control your own monitor mix. It's like the Avion thing. It's a wedge.
Oh, but it's outside of your head. Yes. Not like the voices.
You can use them in in-ears or control a wedge.
Okay. Right. Oh, either one.
Plug in or out to a wedge.
Okay. So you could choose. Well, I'll spend just a second talking about in-ears and why they're attractive to me, and then what we might do is a sound check. Just how we go about doing a sound check. I know that sounds stupid, but this has literally saved hours of our lives collectively. So it may help you just to find a pattern. This thing we found to work. So let me talk about in-ears first. I resisted in-ears for a long time as a worship leader because I wanted to hear what the congregation was singing. That was important to me, and it still is important to me. But what I realized was that a lot of the time I was singing so loud in order to hear my voice over the floor monitor mix and the live stage sound that I was blowing my voice out. Like almost, it was like clockwork. Basically, if I didn't have my voice up, cranked super loud to the point of feedback on the stage, I was going to blow my voice out. And I started to think, well, I'd actually quite like to be doing this 20 years from now, if that's possible and God allows it. So I want to keep my voice. The other thing I noticed is that I'd get, like, people would take videos, or maybe the sound desk at church would record the worship set, and then they'd let me hear it on Monday morning. You ever done that? Wait till Wednesday is my advice to you. If you do it on Monday, you want to be an usher for the rest of your life. Not the pop star, just the regular usher. And I noticed that I wasn't actually singing in tune as much as I thought I was, which wasn't a lot. I didn't really think I was singing in tune that much at all, but it turns out I wasn't even singing in tune as much as that. So eventually I was persuaded to try in-ears, and I put them in. And first thing I realized, I wasn't losing my voice when I was singing, because I could hear myself. I didn't have to worry about the mic feeding back when I was singing, and I didn't have to worry about my acoustic guitar feeding back, because that's the other thing. It's an acoustic instrument. It's not made for rock and roll. It's made for, like, parlors and people's living rooms, or very quiet concert halls. So to actually hear what it is you're playing, and then as a singer to stay in tune with that, you have to have both of those dialed pretty high in order to compete with what's happening on stage. So I noticed I wasn't having any feedback problems either. Then, and this will be my last plug for in-ears, I noticed that we could now play to a click without the front row having to hear the click. So if you have, old school monitor wedges, you can't run a click through that, because unless you have a very understanding congregation, it can be super unpleasant for everybody just to hear click, 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 click all the way through worship. Sometimes tempo is just not worth that much. So now I play with a click at all times. So even if these boys are on floor monitors, some venues we play, they don't have those. I bring my own pack, and Ben and I are synced up. So I have a click inside my in-ears, and I know I'm playing in time and hopefully singing in tune and not causing feedback on stage. So there's a plug. I don't get anything. There's no money involved from Aviom or anybody else about that, but I highly recommend it. It's just a really worthwhile thing. And if you're really concerned about hearing what's happening in the room, you can pull an ear out, or you can get room mics and put them in your ears. But after a while, you kind of start to figure things out and get used to it. It's just another way of doing it.
It doesn't necessarily have to be Aviom, so you could also have a monitor board and have somebody do your monitor mixes for you, with you.
Yes, like today, for example. Alex did my monitor mix because I don't have one of these Rolands. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? No? All right.
Yeah, so on the click, how do you avoid, or if you want to be, I don't know, slow down or speed up, or maybe you never do that. If you want to repeat a section of the song, or you start talking or whatever, how do you just leave the click going all the way through that while you're talking? How do you concentrate and talk while that click's going on?
Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate thing is you actually have to develop a relationship with the drummer. Yeah. So there's no way around it. Even if you've got a click, you can't stay mad with the drummer. You have to be friends. But Ben knows me, and if he hears me starting to talk between a song or maybe say a prayer, and he can sense that this could go longer than 3 or 4 seconds, he'll just stop it, and I'll pray. Sometimes, like, I'm totally off my game, and I'll hear, like, the click, and I'll hear tick, 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 and for some reason I'm like, I can't play in time with that at all. And I realize that time is passing, and everyone's just kind of looking at us like this, and then I'll just go, well, I'm just going to have to fire it up, and I'll just start playing. And what he'll do is he'll stop and start again in time with me. So he has mercy on me. And he's not locked in. So he can stop that at any point. But typically I try not to slow down during a song. There is a sense that people get in the room, even if they're not musicians. If a song starts to slow up and speed down, people start to feel just a little uneasy. They won't tell you, hey man, tempo's a little shaky on the second chorus. But they might be thinking, wow, I wonder if this band is going to make it to the end of the song. I don't know why I'm wondering that, but I am. So anyway.
Oh, also, if you're, I think you may be meaning like if you're playing, the band's playing, and they're playing quietly, and you have to say something or pray or something. Are you wondering if the click then is a bother?
Yeah, I'm actually a piano player, so I'm thinking of vocalists with in-ears trying to do worship leading like you do.
I think
How that affects that.
I think if you get used to it, you really do, and it just becomes a part of the band, in a way.
Can we put that click sound on the house? Is that just so you know what it is? It's almost not. It doesn't sound like an instrument. I find that's easier. It sounds like a TV game from the room next door, and I kind of half an ear is listening to it. I suppose we could just hold it up to a mic. Yeah. There you go. It's kind of like it almost disappears in the mix once the band starts, but it's there. Do you know what it's done? It's actually stopped the paranoia for me, because I spend, like, especially I have chronic fatigue syndrome, so I'm tired a lot of the time, and sometimes unless I've just had coffee or a Diet Coke, and then I'm really hey. So I can't really be sure that I'm keeping. Like, I don't trust my senses on this one. So it's kind of made me relax. I'm like, well, we're not speeding up or slowing down. I can tell that because I can hear it. Yeah.
In this band, like, we could all play without a click and probably be fine. Brown, I think most of this is in his head, but he usually has pretty good timing. But in church situations, when you're playing with a lot of young players, I found in my home church, my family's church in Arizona, once we got the band on click, everybody on click, like, it really sounded a lot more musical, like, to the people out there. If you're standing out there, it sounded a lot more musical, because everybody is in time. Like, you think you're in time until you play to a click, and you're like, gosh, I'm struggling. And then, you got to work on your rhythm playing, or,
Another broken metronome. Yeah. All right. Real quick, we'll just show you how we do a sound check. Normally one of us leads it if we're getting the sound piped to us from the back. But either way, we follow this. We build the sound check like this. So we'll start with the kick.
But first off, it's good to know that we usually zero everything out. And the reason why is when what's up, Doug Gould?
Hey, Mr. Gould.
How you doing?
It's the G.
So basically, we start from zero for one reason is if something is noisy, you got a noisy line or a bad line, you don't really know if everything's
Where it
on
is.
and you're just adjusting levels. You don't know. But if you start from zero, we start with the drums and add it around but like the moment then we get to bass and we turn bass up and we hear we know that's the channel. That's the one that has the noise. That's the one you got to fix instead of trying to run around like a chicken and be like, what is it? Who knows? What could it be? Immediately, because you pull up the channel and that's the one making
guitar
noise.
too, though, right?
Usually it's bass, by the way.
But often guitar. Yeah. So
And also another cool thing that we started doing is we build onto each other. Like, if we start with kick drum, we'll get kick drum around, and then once kick drum's around, we move to snare. He doesn't stop playing the kick drum and then hit the snare, because you build on relation to what the last thing was. Does that make sense? So, like, if we all get kick drum what we want, he's playing kick drum, we all get it and we all like where it's at, and then if we say let's add snare to that, then
we all have our hands in the air, like, I need more snare, or a little bit less snare, or don't need a little less snare.
yeah, and now we know how that kick and snare sound together. That's a mix together. A lot of times people do sound check, like they'll say, all right, let's play guitar, you got it? Yeah. All right, let's play acoustic, you got it? And then you start playing, and the levels are just ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, so we build one on top of the other. It's so simple. It really has saved our lives. Yeah. Sometimes if you're on floor monitors, we start the other way around. So the last thing on any monitors we add is typically voice. So we do kick, snare, hi-hat, maybe overheads if we want, and we put in the bass, then we put electric guitar in, then I'll sing, and then we'll do vocals, and we'll kind of build it up like that. If we're on floor monitors and there's no other option, I'll try to get my vocal. We'll start with my vocal. I'll get my vocal as loud as I can get it in the floor monitor before it starts feeding back. So at least I know I'm singing in tune. And then we slot everything underneath that, because that's what your volume parameter is. It's dictated by feedback at that point. Does that make sense? Very good. Scotty, tell us things. What would you have to say?
I'll say that in church situations, guitar players usually have as big of a battle or maybe worse battle than the drummers do. And that boils down to one thing, that when you actually turn up your amp, it really does sound better, believe it or not. It's not, you think I'm joking, but it's really the truth. And the
Not
truth
just
is,
to you, objectively speaking, it sounds better.
yeah, and the truth of it is that you get these cool tube amps. If you're running a tube amp, if you're running a solid state amp, it doesn't really matter. You might as well have a tube amp on one, and you'll get very similar sound. But when you push a decent sounding tube amp, like there's cool stuff that starts to happen, like your EQ range, like you got bass and treble. Usually, sometimes you got mid on your amp. But what happens is when you push your guitar amp, your tube amp, the EQ does less. So it's actually it focuses all the sound, and you could literally turn the EQ knobs, and if you're pushing your amp quite a bit, and it does less, and it sounds better no matter what you do. But you have your guitar amp on 2, every little move, you push the high end a little bit, and it's like, you can hear it sizzle, But, and the reason being is that when you hear records, you're usually hearing the right guitar with the right amp doing the right thing. You're not hearing usually you're not hearing a lot of overdrive pedals. You're hearing the amps driving, the right amp driving with the right guitar. Does that make sense? So in a worship situation, you have to figure out how to make those sounds happen without killing your sound guy.
Or the congregation.
Or the congregation, yeah. And there's a few options. Like this was more of a concert kind of vibe that we did today. It wasn't your average Sunday morning worship. But I still brought, if you see this little amp back here, it's a 67 Princeton Reverb. Great little sounding amp. I think it's rated at like 12 watts. But that's not loud. That's not as loud as like an AC30 would be, like 30 watts would be like really loud. But it's still quite loud. 12 watts is, we'll put it this way, like a trumpet player, if you ever stood next to a trumpet player, like really giving it horns, really wailing, that's I guess equivalent to like a 5-watt tube amp. And that's loud.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's like really loud. You get upset.
Yes.
So, and then you take a 12-watt amp. A lot of people get these, 12-watt amps and think they're going to be okay. Still, they're quite loud. And especially if you want them to do what I want them to do. I want them to drive. If I hit it hard, I want it to break up a little. And that's what focuses my tone. It adds a little compression to it. And that's where you put the magic sauce. You push the amp a little, and that's the sounds you hear on records, usually. Even clean sounds. On records, most of the time, if you hear a clean sound, it's got a little hair on it. It's got just a little fur on it, and that's the only way that it cuts through in a mix. It kicks up your mids a little and adds some compression, and it translates as clean. But if you hear it on its own, you think, gosh, that's actually kind of driving. You know what I mean? But in a mix, it sounds clean. Does that make sense? So that's.
So how do you solve the riddle?
Well, I'm about to get to that.
I'm just curious.
There's a few options. Smaller amps, like this is a small amp, but like I said, it's still quite loud here. It's still pretty loud. Let's just turn. Well, and this is an old amp, and I've just got this amp. I love this little amp. But I have a couple other like 60 Silvertones that are also rated at 12 watts, but I think they're more like, they sound more like 8 watts. They're pretty quiet, and they sound cool. They're good for churches as well. But this amp is still quite loud, and I'm not driving it as hard as I want because I'm afraid I'm going to blow this little speaker. I'm going to change the speaker out, and then I'll be able to crank the thing, and it'll sound like gold. But for now, there's no effects on it at all. If I had a Les Paul or something with humbuckers, it would drive more, but this is just the clean sound. Drives a little bit. You hear it breaking up. It's driving. I would actually like it to drive a little bit more than that, but like I said, I think I may blow this speaker up. I don't want to do that. I want to save the speaker. I'm going to put a a newer speaker in there that'll a little bit more wattage, and I'll put this in the closet. But so that's gotten just a little fur. I would like to turn this amp at about, it's in between 5 and 6. I'd like to push it to about 7, and then it would get just a little bit more fur on it. And I can push. You don't like that, do you? You don't like me saying that?
I think they're quite liking that. Yeah.
And then I just push something, a little bit of overdrive goes a long way when your amp's pushing a little. Just a little bit of overdrive gets you into like rock and roll rhythm sound. So this is like tube screamer type overdrive, and it's just... So it's pretty rock and roll, but it's not really doing much. It's just kind of pushing the front end. I have the drive super low on this. I mean, usually I keep the drive on this anywhere from 9 o'clock to, I don't know, like tops 11 usually. And that's just pushing the front end just a little, and it's pretty rock and roll sounding. You guys like that?
Just the one.
Pocket full to get. Yeah, the Who. Speaking of the Who, like my rhythm sound, my electric rhythm sound, I constantly think, just if I can get that tone, this tone is basically what I want my amp to sound like, without any overdrive pedals. And then if I want it clean, 2 things I can do. I could play softer, and it basically sounds clean. That sounds pretty clean, but in a mix that translates to a lot cleaner than it sounds here. And every note cuts through, Or I could roll my guitar volume down just a little so it's not hitting the amp so hard. It sounds really nice. It's a nicer sound than just some spanky clean sound that just plinks. If you don't have any kind of, let's say it again, any kind of fur on the sound, then it just sounds a little plinky. It just sounds like clink, 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 clink. And that's not the sounds I hear on records, nor you. So that's basically what I start with, is a Pete Townsend type overdrive sound is my rhythm sound. Pete Townsend or like Angus Young, like that's the sound. If you can get that as your rock and roll rhythm sound, you're rock and roll.
So, but still with the riddle, I want to know the answer.
Okay, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
So
1 minute. Yeah.
So a few options, like I said, going to smaller amps helps, but even then you're too loud most of the time. Like that would kill you on a Sunday morning probably, huh?
Wound. Maim?
Does it? All right. But, the older tithers, they don't like that. And you got to pay for this place.
Old Tyler.
No. Oh. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll put this amp in the hallway or somewhere out there, and I'll monitor through in-ears or through a wedge, and that helps a lot. And I can still push the amp a lot. And sometimes a lot of churches do this. At least at my family's home church, what we did in the stage, when we built the stage, we built isolation boxes. There's one on that side of the stage and one on this side of the stage, and there's like a little 112 on one side and a 212 on this side, and it's mic'd up and it sounds nice. And the kids just bring their guitar heads or their guitar amp and they plug a speaker cable into it, and that solves a lot of problems. That they can still get that sound that they want, and it's not killing everybody. It just rattles the stage when you stand on top of the. But Yeah, that's helpful. And you can even build, like I've seen some churches build little boxes that just set backstage, and they have a cabinet in there. I mean, it doesn't have to cost a lot, but you can still get these sounds without killing everybody.
And even up here, like with the louder volumes of today, that amp just pointed off to, I'm guessing, the cry room or that mosaic, whatever.
Yeah, I've got it facing away from him, so it's not shooting it in his vocal mic, and he's not getting a lot of it, and it's not shooting straight out into everybody. It's kind of facing obscure way. That helps too. And I can still feel some of the energy from the amp being close to me. That helps too. But
Yeah.
and you see this Vox is one of their amps, and I'm just using it to create like this little pad sound. So that's not like some of you may be like, oh, what's that big amp over there? I'm using it, but you're not hearing it
like
now.
the videos.
Usually I'll create like a little pad vibe. I'll show you here. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'll
if you
put-
need to go. This is helpful.
I'm just swelling into that. And if we're playing the key of A and we're not doing anything tricky, we're staying pretty diatonic. That kind of suffices for like what a keyboard player would do. And we could play in the key of A. You could do all your changes. You could play over that, and it kind of helps in a small band, but that's what that amp's for. All right, I think I'm done.
It's good. So yeah, if you don't have a keyboardist, we use that. That little pedal is a lot cheaper than a keyboardist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, mostly shows up on time. Yeah.
And we don't feel like we have to run tracks, and kind of just fills in some of the gaps.
Yeah. Shoots. Yeah. So much to be said on this. I mean, the important part is just to have fun. Scotty normally talks about YouTube. Like when we were kids, you couldn't research this stuff. Like you'd have to go to a show and then loiter around the stage. Like I just remember being beat back by sound guys going, "Stay away from the guitarist!"
Yeah.
Because you're trying to find out what they're using and what they're doing.
Well, I'm 36, and you probably don't want to say how old you are, but
Yeah.
when I was
35.
35. When I was in like high school, I lived in this little town called Yuma, Arizona, and there's nothing happening in that town, like nothing. You go to the rodeo, see somebody break their leg. That's the most fun you can have. But I wanted to go see shows, so I'd drive to San Diego and Phoenix, in high school, just to see shows and see what gear people are using. I'd go twice a month just to go see shows, and now you could just literally find out anything you want to know about what gear are these people using on these records you like. You could find that stuff out and figure out a way
even
to
how
make
they're
those
like.
sounds.
Then what are they doing? They own it. Now what are they doing? People will show you. Well, I'm doing this with the volume control, and
Yeah.
I'm running it through this pedal, but only at this level. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd hang out backstage and act like I was helping, and then run to the guitar player and be like, "Man, what's that?"
Yeah. Computer. How far is it to the sun?
Yeah,
Yeah.
used to. Yeah, it's like the future now. The future is now.
All right. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us. God bless you guys. I hope you have a good day. Scotty Murray, Ben Showalter, Daniel Ornelas.